Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin our webinar. My name is Joseph Krolikowski, and I'm the Technical Director of Perry Johnson. I'd like to welcome everybody to the ISO 9001-2015 Preparing for a Successful Transition webinar. A couple of informational notes for you. Everyone is on mute. I will direct you to use the question portion of your dashboard if you happen to have questions as we're going along here. We will make time at the end of the presentation for questions. We do have a frequently asked questions portion of the presentation that's been kind of built up over time as we've given this presentation, so perhaps your question may be answered there, but if it isn't, definitely feel free to ask a question and we will get to that at the end of our presentation. Let's go over our topics for today. We're going to review where the standards come from, address the issue of why are the things changing in the standard all over again, what is our timeline, and where we're going and where we've been, what are the key changes to the standard on this go-round. We're going to assess what I'm sure is a very important question for many of you. Do we have to overhaul the current system? As I mentioned earlier, we've got some FAQs from past presentations, some final points, and then your questions. So let's begin with where do the standards come from? The letters ISO, they stand for the International Organization for Standardization. And the ISO is a collective. It's made up of numerous international members. And each of the standards that the ISO publishes, and there are many, many standards, they are each assigned a technical committee. And the technical committee for ISO 9001 is TC176. And TC176 itself is made up of numerous members from across the various industrialized nations. The U.S. representatives to TC176 are taken from the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI. Now, as to why the standard is changing, it was recognized on this particular go-round that the industries that use ISO have evolved. They're going to continue to evolve, and so therefore the standard has to evolve. It has to meet those new and changing needs from those industries. The ISO and TC176, they want to see ISO 9001 continue to be adopted into more sectors, more industries, see it utilized in different spaces. There's been a targeted effort on this go-round to simplify the language that's being used. There's a number of terms that are used in systems and in audits, and there's a desire to see a consistency in the understanding of those terms. So that's a specific focus on this rewrite. And most of all, what they really wanted to accomplish with this latest update is an improvement of cross-compatibility between standards. There's a lot of companies out there that have 2 or more certifications, companies with ISO 9001 and ISO 14001, or 9001, 14001, and 18001. On this occasion, they really wanted to be sure that those types of companies could have one system, one set of documentation, if you will. As it stands right now, if a company wants to have ISO 9001 and ISO 14001, a lot of the times those companies end up having 2 manuals, 3 manuals, and so forth. That's a lot of work, and it's in large part due to the differences in how those standards are written. So on this particular go-round, they really want to improve cross-compatibility. The TC176 chairperson is a gentleman by the name of Nigel Croft, and Nigel recently was asked what are the key things that we're looking to accomplish with this update to the standard. And Nigel phrased it as follows. He said that we want the standard to foster three key ideals, and two of these are familiar, and the third is new. The standard still very much wants to promote process approach. Those of you that are ISO 9001-2008 certified, you have no doubt come to understand what that means, how process approach manifests in a number of different ways. The process approach that we take with defining our system, the process approach that we take in writing the documentation, even the process approach that is used when an audit is performed. So the 2015 version of ISO 9001 is going to continue to promote heavily the process approach at the system level, management level, processes being driven by results, processes seeking to be consistent. The cycle of plan, do, check, act is still very much an ideal that is going to be promoted by ISO 9001. The whole idea that we have processes that are planned out, acted upon, reviewed, and then refined over time. That whole aspect of PDCA, as it's called, is still very much present in the new standard. The new idea is the idea of risk-based thinking, the whole idea of preventing undesirable outcomes. As we're going to learn as we continue our presentation today, the TC-176 committee is calling this a new idea, and in some respects it is a new idea, but there's an awful lot that you're already doing within ISO 9001 that is going to help you be ready for risk management, and we're going to cover that in great detail as we continue our presentation. Let's take a look at the timeline. We are kind of, I suppose you could say, we're past the midway point, coming up on third base, so to speak. We are in the midst of a long-term process. There's been some key dates that have passed, and we're coming up very soon on the next key date, as you will see. Here's where we have come from. Back in June of 2013, the committee draft was published. That document had a fairly limited circulation. It was pretty much just for the TC-176 committee members. That document in turn gave way to the May 2014 Draft International Standard, or DIS. And this is the document that is in circulation right now. This is the document that was voted on. Now looking ahead, the proposed publication date for the final draft international standard, or FDIS, is this coming July. In fairly short order, we will see the ISO 9001-2015 standard, the actual standard, in September of 2015, and then looking way ahead, in September of 2018, all ISO 9001-2008 clients should have successfully transitioned to the new standard. So in terms of where we are at this very moment, the DIS 9001 that was published last year, it received a 90% approval vote when TC-176 had their vote. Obviously that's overwhelming approval. That approval at that time means that the progression to FDIS in all likelihood is going to proceed according to the planned timeline, which, as we mentioned earlier, is July. As to what they are doing at this moment, they are integrating the comments from all the voting members, those that approved it, those that rejected it. They're all allowed to kind of have their say. And the idea is that by inputting and taking all of these thoughts into consideration and taking their time with it, I should mention that the vote was all the way back in November when this happened. The idea is that when the FDIS is published, it will enable that swift and decisive approval vote to enable full publication as the standard in September. And to the best information that we have at this moment, those dates, the July 2015 and September 2015 dates, are going to hold. However, it's important for you to keep in mind that the transition timeline does not take hold until the standard is actually published. So September 2018 doesn't mean anything if the standard isn't published in September of this year. So if we, for example, see a standard in November, then that would mean our cutoff would be November of 2018, obviously. At the present time, it's still not clear if it's going to be necessary to add additional audit time for the transition audit process. Now, for each of you, your transition is going to be a little bit different in terms of what timing works best. Perhaps some of you are going to be coming up for recertification next year or yet again this year. We're going to be covering the timing on that a little bit later in the presentation. Bear in mind that at the present time we don't know if additional audit time is going to be necessary. I suspect we will know the answer to that question right around the time that the finished standard is actually published. One other point that I'll make while we're on this slide, the September 2018 proposed cutoff, what that's going to mean is that registrars like PJR, we're going to have to figure out what the cutoff is going to be. Let's say, for example, that a company wants to have a new certificate in hand in, say, October of 2018. They're going to put it off to the very end. PJR, for its part, we have a cycle of time that needs to pass for us to be able to review a completed audit, approve a certificate application, and so forth. This would mean that we would have to establish some kind of cutoff date. So whether that is 3 months prior, 6 months prior, that will need to be decided. And at the present time, that decision has not yet been made. Obviously, we will share that information with you at such time as a course of action has been determined. Let's dig in a little bit into what the key changes are to the standard. ISO 9001 2015 is going to be among the very first of the ISO standards to use what's been referred to as the high-level outline, Annex SL. This is the document referred to as Annex SL. And what Annex SL is, it's part of a larger ISO publication, the ISO IEC directives on procedures specific to ISO. You can kind of think of this as the standard that specifies how to write a standard. And I've provided a link here in the slide. Those of you that are going to download the slides, you can definitely make use of that link. The directives part 1 is available for viewing right on the ISO website. It's a huge, huge document. And Annex SL is only one small part of it. Annex SL was written back in 2012. It was the output of a special committee, the JTCG. It is a 10-section blueprint, and it's intended to be used to author all of the ISO family of standards. It promotes common terms, core definitions. You know, if you think of a term like audit or a term like organization, these are terms that it makes sense that these items would be defined by some higher level document, and that's kind of the function that Annex SL is seeking to fulfill. The plan calls for full transition of all of the ISO standards to Annex SL by 2016 or 2017. And again, these are numerous standards, each with their own technical committee, each with their own group of interested parties. each weighing in with what matters to them and what's important. So this will take obviously some time, but the full transition should be complete by sometime in 2017. Let's take a look at the 10-section structure. The first 3 sections should be fairly familiar to you. These are introductory clauses. We cover the scope of what ISO 9001 is to apply to, the normative references to ISO 9000 and 9004, terms and definitions, which as we'll see, that has been expanded quite a bit. And then we begin with the auditable requirements of the standard here in Section 4. Context, who are the interested parties, defining the scope of your system, some of the real basic requirements here. In Section 5, we've got a new term, leadership, and the ideas that you would likely associate with leadership. This is the placeholder, as you can see, for quality policy, defining responsibility and authority is found here. In Section 6, we have the newly introduced risk management requirement. Quality objectives are found here. Planning of changes is found here. Section 7 is called support. Your training and competency requirements are here. This is the new placeholder for the requirements related to document control and records control. Communication is found here. So what you have in sections 4, 5, 6, and 7, you can think of as kind of foundation requirements. These are the things that you put in place in order to support a set of processes, a set of core processes, if you will. The heart and soul of the standard and the day-to-day activities therein, for the most part, are going to be found in Section 8. You can think of Section 8 as being in some ways very much what was previously found in Section 7 of ISO 9001-2008. All of the core activities are here. The sale of product, purchasing activity is here, production control is here. They've placed non-conforming product control here. So in terms of where the audits are going to be focused and what activities are going to be looked at with the most amount of audit time, these are likely going to be the activities found in Section 8. The standard concludes with Sections 9 and 10. Very much linked ideas here. In Section 9, we've got all of the monitoring and measurement activities. Internal audits are here. This is the new place for management review, kind of linking the ideas of internal audit and management review. And then under improvement, we've got nonconformity and the linkage therein to corrective action, and then the whole idea of improvement. So the standard concludes in a similar fashion with these ideas of corrective action and improvement. Let's dig a little deeper now into these key changes, and we've kind of highlighted the primary new content areas, and we're going to kind of cover these on a section-by-section basis. First of all, some general notes. The items that are now in a single 9001 document, first of all, the terms and definitions. Many of these terms and definitions were formerly found in the ISO 9000 document. Definitions for things like audit criteria, for audit scope, for audit findings, audit conclusions, organization, supplier, customer. All of these terms that were defined in 2005 have been integrated into the 9001 document. The quality management principles, you may remember that these were formerly found in the 9004 document. There are 7 of them now. 2 of the former 8 have been combined, and they've been supplemented with a rationale statement. The idea behind the rationale statement is to aid in understanding the intent of the principle. What all of this has meant is that The draft standard itself is long. It's over 50 pages, but only 17 of those pages represent auditable or certifiable content. Now, as to ISO 9000 and 9004, we know that both of those documents are going to be retained. We know that there are planned updates for those documents. As to what the content of those documents is going to be, we do not know at the present time. We only know that the plan is to retain them for the foreseeable future. Let's talk a little bit about risk here, the term risk as it appears in the new standard. It actually appears 18 times in the draft standard, and again, the whole idea is this large principle of risk-based thinking. For those of you that have been part of this back when, and remember when ISO 9001-2000 was published, you may remember that continual improvement was kind of the new idea at that time. And the way it was explained was that continual improvement was not just something that you do and set aside. It's a principle that affects the entire quality management system. Well, that's very much how risk management is being viewed in this new 2015 standard. It's not just something that you do and set aside, it's a system-wide strategy. However, it has been emphasized by TC 176 and many others that they are not looking for a formal or heavily documented risk management process. They want to see risk management as a integrated activity into your system, as an ideal, very much like continual improvement. It's something that's going to affect all of the various areas of your system. Let's take a look at the verbiage for the actual risk management clause. It's clauses 611 and 612. Now 611 of the draft standard reads as follows. When you're planning for the system, you need to consider the issues that are referred to in 4.1, which is context, and the requirements referred to in 4.2, and determine the risks and opportunities. You'll note that both of those terms are used here that need to be addressed to first give assurance that the system can achieve its results, can prevent or reduce undesired effects, and can achieve continual improvement. So the idea here is not just that this is bad things, which the term risk generally implies bad things happening, but opportunities as well. The whole idea of planning for the future and planning to have a better system, a more robust system, and so forth. If you read into these requirements here, a lot of what is being discussed here is very, very similar to what you may know from preventive action, and we're going to discuss the connection in just a minute here. The second clause under 612 reads as follows. The organization shall plan actions to address these risks and opportunities, and shall plan how to integrate and implement the actions into the system processes, and then evaluate the effectiveness of those actions. Actions taken to address the risks and address the opportunities shall be proportionate to the potential impact on the conformity of products and services. So again, not terribly different from the overall principle of preventive action. So hopefully we're starting to see some familiar ideas here. And this slide is hopefully going to help you see that even better. What ISO 9001-2008 requirements most directly correlate to risk management? We've identified 4 key items that you're already doing that are going to help you be ready for this risk management requirement. Management review. You're already in the practice of reviewing the overall system, Those of you that are really knowledgeable about the standard, you'll know that in section 5.6.3 it talks about output from management review shall include decisions and actions. You're taking action based on what you have discussed within the review process. 7.2.2, review of requirements related to the product. You're expected to review the things that your customer says, the things that your customer doesn't say, statutory, regulatory, and to take appropriate action therein. Preventive action, 8.5.3. This one is probably the strongest connection point between 2008 and 2015. The whole idea of assessing potential problems and taking actions to avoid those items in the first place. And then finally, training under 6.2.2, looking at your competency needs and verifying that personnel are fully qualified and fully competent. So hopefully this slide is going to give you some assurance that a lot of what's going to be expected of you under risk management, this is all activities that you're already doing. These are already things that you should be doing under ISO 9001-2008. Let's talk about some other changes in 9001-2015. Beginning with some key changes in terminology. The terms procedures, records, and documents, they've all been eliminated in favor of the phrase documented information. Now, the idea here is the organization wants to be more inclusive. They want to accept alternative approaches to these types of activities. Consider a scenario where a company has a robust computer system and they more or less run their entire company and their entire quality system out of that computer program. The terms procedures and records and documents, that's kind of difficult conceptually to apply to a computer system. But the term documented information is thought of as being a little more robust and a little more able to be inclusive of that type of approach to the control of things like procedures and records. So again, it's expanding the idea of what is acceptable under ISO 9001 and how we approach the management of a quality system. All references to the term product have been expanded to read products and services. Now, really, this has been the case all along. Clause 3 of ISO 9001-2008 stated that wherever the term product appears, it can also mean service. So now what they're doing is just expanding that and writing it right into the verbiage of the standard itself. Again, the whole idea is to be more inclusive and to apply the standard to companies that have products and those that don't have a tangible product. Management responsibility is now going to be referred to as leadership. And this pushes the concept a little bit further that management leads by example, leads by involvement. It doesn't just direct that activities are performed. The whole idea of leading by involvement. Continual improvement has been evolved a bit. It's now going to be referred to as just improvement. And the idea here is that continual improvement is actually one of several aspects of improvement that should be strived for in a quality system. We can have improvement through breakthroughs, through reactive changes, through reorganizations, in addition to what's commonly understood as continual improvement. So again, the standard wants to recognize the validity and value of those activities. Suppliers are now going to be referred to as external providers. Again, you can see the idea here of this being applicable to service type organizations. Okay, ISO 9001-2015 is not going to require any of the following terms, or items rather. It's not going to require a quality manual. it's not going to require a procedures manual, and it's not going to require work instructions. Now, let's talk a little bit about the implication of this requirement. The idea is that you can achieve certification without those items. However, this doesn't mean that you are excused from having systems in place, processes in place to control your quality management system and the activities therein. So the auditors are still going to have to come in and make sure that you've met all the requirements that apply, and that what you're doing is consistent and effective for each and every one of your processes. Now, if you can do that without a procedure, without a quality manual, absolutely that's going to be considered acceptable. Again, we're taking into account the idea that there's more than one way to run a quality system. A procedures manual is a good approach. It's a very much proven approach, but it's not the only approach to manage a quality system. So the standard wants to be sure that we are allowing for multiple ways of effectively running your quality system. The term management representative has been eliminated, and it does not appear anywhere within the new standard. Now, the implication of this is that not so much that the responsibility has been eliminated, but the party's key functions now rest on top management itself, on the leadership team. Now, does this mean that you can't have a key person or a focal point? No, certainly not. You can absolutely appoint a key person for arranging audits, a key contact for corrective action, etc. But the management of the system should not be solely on that person's shoulders. You are a leadership team. This is your system. Lead. Run your system. It's not all supposed to be dumped in one person's lap. Now, for a lot of companies, this is already how it's actually done. They have a management team, and the team runs the system. But there are a lot of other companies out there that unfortunately dump everything in one person's lap, and that is no longer going to be considered an acceptable practice under ISO 9001:2015. Permissible exclusions has been eliminated, and more specifically, the term permissible exclusions has been eliminated. You'll still be able to claim certain items under what they're going to refer to as non-applicable. So, for example, those of you out there that do not design products, you'll be able to claim a non-applicable designation. What that means is the validity of those designations are going to be verified at each audit. Now, in practice, this is how we already do it. If a company claims a permissible exclusion for design or for measurement equipment or for any other activity, it is still subject to verification on a per audit basis because conditions can change. So the term is gone, but the enforceability of the concept and how it will work in audit practice is going to be more or less completely the same. We're going to spend the next few slides now taking a look at some key new questions that are posed by the standard. Most of these key changes can be found in sections 4, 5, and 6. Sections 1 through 3, as I mentioned, are kind of introductory clauses. They are not specifically auditable, and that is as it was before under the 2008 version of the standard. In Section 4, context of the organization, a couple of key new questions that are being asked. What purpose does the organization serve, and who does it exist for? The whole idea of interested parties and who is weighing in on this system, and where are the decisions being made. In Section 5, leadership, again, the whole idea that the term top management is being looked at now as leadership. There are several key new questions. Has management made itself accountable for the effectiveness or lack of effectiveness of the system? Has management made sure that the quality policy and quality objectives are consistent with the strategic direction of the company? And has the quality management system been integrated into business processes? Now, what this means is that the strategic/financial direction of the company and the quality system should be on similar paths. They should be operating in sync with each other. Now, does this mean that you're going to have to open your financial records to the auditor? No, it does not mean that at all. It means that in a sense, these two things should be operating at similar purpose. Now, how this will play out in the actual audit practice, we're going to have to determine that. But we do know that there is verbiage in Section 5 that talks about the quality system and the business system, so to speak, that those two things should be in sync with each other. Section 6, as we mentioned earlier, is the placeholder for risk management. Planning is now viewed in a whole new light. Have the risks been considered? Have actions been taken for risks? They've also expanded a bit on the idea of quality objectives and have introduced some key new questions. Who's going to be responsible for the achievement of the objectives? Do we have a target date? Do we know what we're trying to accomplish by this objective? Now, in practice, those are questions that are hopefully already being asked with your quality objectives, but now they're more specifically enforceable by the new standard. Section 7 is called support. For the most part, this is the new placeholder for resource management from Section 6. There are some bits and pieces from Sections 4 and 5. One very slightly new area of content comes in Section 7.1.6, where it asks, has the organization considered its changing needs and trends against its current competency base and determine what's needed for the future? In other words, is your staff ready for the challenges ahead? This is a form of risk management. Beyond that, there is no other significant new content in Section 7. That's also true for Section 8. We've done an in-depth analysis of the operation requirement. This is the large one that covers day-to-day activity. We have concluded that there is no significant new content in Section 8 that wasn't present in some form in 9001-2008. That's also true for Section 9. The only thing that is noteworthy within Section 9 is that this is now the new placeholder for management review. Again, the whole idea of aligning it with internal auditing. And then finally, Section 10. Again, no significant new content. This is very similar to the continual improvement and corrective action requirements from ISO 9001-2008. So hopefully what we've shown you by this last several slides here, the changes to the standard are minimal. They're manageable. If you have a mature ISO 9001-2008 quality system, our analysis has been that the transition process should not be onerous. It should be quite manageable. Even risk management is not such a new idea. As we mentioned several slides ago, there's at least 4 things that you're already doing in ISO 9001-2008 that should help you feel ready for this new requirement. Which leads us to the next key idea here. Do you have to overhaul your system? And our analysis has concluded absolutely not. One of the goals of the TC 176 committee, as we've mentioned, was they wanted to improve the inclusiveness of the standard. If you tell over 1 million worldwide registered companies that they have to overhaul their system, that's not inclusive. So it would be impossible, really, to significantly overhaul the standard and not have it affect the companies that are currently certified. So they were very careful, we feel, in how they worded the new requirements, incorporated what was good and what was working from ISO 9001-2008. So in that spirit, I would say to you, bear this in mind. If it works, keep it. If your quality manual fits what you do, if it accurately defines your scope, if it accurately defines your processes and how they interact, absolutely keep your quality manual. If you use your procedures within your system, if they are effective, if they define your key processes, absolutely keep your procedures. If your quality policy, if your quality objectives, if these items are well known, if they add value to the system, absolutely keep those items as well. Let's take a look now. We've got several questions that have been raised in past presentations and some answers to those questions. We're going to begin with a question that was raised recently. Will our staff have to complete transition training? This is going to depend a bit on the extent of revisions that you're going to be making to your system, but generally, yes, you will be expected to provide some form of transition training. At minimum, our expectation would be that you put the word out that there is a new standard, that things have been changed, and make sure that you've assessed the new standard's impact on your various processes and on your personnel. However, it is entirely conceivable that the majority of your staff is going to feel absolutely no effect from your transition. That is entirely possible. In that same spirit, we would ask, what about the internal auditors? Will they have to complete transition training? Bear in mind that internal auditing is viewed in the same light, in the same respect as any other competency within the system. And if you look at the competency clause, it says that the organization is responsible for determining what the competencies are and what's going to be needed and how to achieve the competency. So to sum that up, it's up to you. This is your organization. This is your quality system. You will have to determine the extent to which the transition training is going to be needed. Now, if you have a seasoned team of internal auditors, our feeling is that they should be able to complete a brief period of self-study and transition right into auditing the new standard. Now, obviously, the competency of your auditors will be looked at through the effectiveness of the audit process, and every situation will be different, of course, but in terms of do you have to do formalized transition training for your internal auditors, that should not be necessary. It's not going to be required by the 9001:2015 standard anyhow. We've been asked, will the other standards be updated? And the information that we have at present is that all of the major sector standards, these would include TS 16949, AS 9100, TL 9000, all of them have indicated their intention to transition and continue their alignment with ISO 9001. Now, in terms of timelines and so forth, we don't fully know the timelines for the publication on any of these items. They've all mentioned 2016, but obviously they've each got their own committees, their own interested parties, a lot of industry weigh in with those standards, so a firm date is not yet known for any of them. We also know that the medical device standard, ISO 13485, has indicated that they will not continue to align with ISO 9001. They have their own technical committee. They are in the midst of an update to ISO 13485. They are also targeting 2016 for publication. Let's talk a little bit now about what is surely a key question for some of you. Should we get certified now or wait? There are no doubt several folks on our presentation today that are in the midst of implementing a system, a new system for ISO 9001. And you're wondering, well, should we still certify to ISO 9001-2008? Obviously, PJR cannot make that decision for you, but bear in mind, ISO 9001-2008 at this moment still has at least 3.5 years of usability left in it. If the new standard was published today, it would still be a 3-year transition period. And the other thing to bear in mind, obviously, is that those first few audits to ISO 9001-2015 are going to be difficult for everybody. The auditees, the auditors, even the certification bodies like PJR. As time passes, we're going to, all of us, get more comfortable with ISO 9001-2015. So we can't tell you what to do, but if you are targeting a new system now, our feeling is that there's still a lot of value in being certified to ISO 9001-2008 for the foreseeable future ahead here. What steps can we take? In terms of the steps to take to pursue a successful transition, we defer to the International Accreditation Forum's ID9, which promotes a 7-step process. First, a full review of the standard that should be done by top management to ensure that gaps have been identified. Secondly, an implementation plan that assigns responsibility for each item, ensuring that documents have been updated to reflect any new or revised processes. I've got a follow-up note on that one in just a moment. Making sure that any necessary awareness and transition training has been completed, ensuring that a full system internal audit followed by a management review has been performed, ensuring that corrective actions have been implemented for internal audit findings, and then finally coordinating with your certification body, with PJR, for planning of your official transition arrangements. Remember, with your documents, with your quality manual procedures and so forth, now would very likely be a good time for you to ask yourself, do these documents work for us? There's a lot of companies out there that have procedures, that have a quality manual, that sits on the shelf and gets taken down once a year on audit day. That is not at all what's intended by these documents. You are intended to have documents that make a positive contribution to your quality system. And with ISO 2015, they're really pushing the envelope on that ideal, on that principle. So if you have a set of procedures that you don't use, and you have other methods for controlling your system, you can definitely consider letting those procedures go. If you have a set of procedures that do work for you, but they happen to be numbered in accordance with ISO 9001-2008. So in other words, if your document control procedure says written to comply with ISO 9001-2008 clause 4.2.3, well, obviously those references will have to be corrected. But the document number that's been assigned to it, the document title, and so forth, if all of those things are working for you, you can certainly leave them as is and utilize them in ISO 9001-2015. Obviously, as this process continues, Your auditor is going to be an important point of information for each and every one of you. They're going to be able to provide expert analyses of your system against the new criteria. For many of you, your auditor has been coming to see you for many years and knows your system well. They're going to be a valuable resource in the transition process. Perry Johnson feels very strongly that this is an exciting time for quality systems. We're excited about ISO 9001 2015. We do feel it's a beneficial update to a standard that's been around a long time, and it has a long track record of contribution. We're going to continue to provide you with timely updates on this transition process, and we're going to endeavor to enable all of our clients as smooth a transition as possible. I'd like to conclude here with a couple of links that you should find helpful. Again, if you download the slides, you should be able to copy and paste these into your web browser. We have prepared a side-by-side comparison between ISO 9001 and the DIS 9001 draft standard. The link is there. We've also prepared an FAQ report. It includes some of the FAQs that we've already talked about, and the link for that is there as well. So without further ado, we're going to begin a review of questions. I'm going to go ahead and open the question dashboard. And it looks like we've already got several questions here, so we're going to kind of dig through these here and see what we've got here. Okay, we've got a lengthy question here by Playman Christoph. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Okay, and kind of the gist of the question is if you're already running an effective quality management system, how could you possibly have risk? What risks could there be if you're already running an effective management system? And I think that I agree with you in principle, and I would say that this is indeed, this is part of why we have emphasized in our presentation that an organization that is running an effective ISO 9001-2008 quality system should already be well prepared to show compliance and fulfillment of the risk management requirement. So I think I agree with you in principle. What's happening now with this new update is the idea of risk management is going to be more specifically subject to audit, and that's really what's different, if you want to call it different, in this update. Okay, I've got a couple of questions here from Rachel Oliver. Rachel asks, first, what about forms? Are they going to be required, or will they fall into documented information? Well, Rachel, basically think of it this way. This is your system. These are your processes. You have to be able to determine what is going to work best for you and your organization to control the various activities of the quality system. Just to pick something out of the air, the evaluation and approval of suppliers. That requirement is still to be found in ISO 9001-2015. It's got a new title now, but the requirement is still very much present. For some companies, that's done with a form. For other companies, that might be done through a database, et cetera, et cetera. So are forms still going to be used? Yes, I would suspect that forms are going to be a part of an ISO 9001-2015 quality system. Are certain forms mandatory? No, because again, the whole idea is documented information. Rachel also asks, what about risk management? It's being is it to be referred to as risk management or risk-based thinking? The whole idea of risk-based thinking, that's kind of the top-level idea that was promoted by the TC 176 committee. That's kind of the principle at large. The term that's used in the actual draft standard is the whole idea of a system for risk and ideas to determine risks and opportunities. That whole concept is more referred to as risk management. The two terms are very, very similar in terms of how they've been applied. Okay, we've got another question, a couple questions here from Playman Christoph. How would you comment that planning appears in the due cycle? In Operation 8.1, Operation Planning and Control, do you think this will undermine the PDCA concept? No, I do not. The PDCA is still very much a key principle of the new standard. Planning out your processes, carrying out your processes, checking them, and then taking action therein. All of those principles are still found within the new standard. Playman also asks, ISO 9001:2015 talks about documented information. Can you provide examples for non-documented information, bearing in mind that the document is the information with its media? Again, Playman, I think what they're trying to push with this idea is the whole idea that a lot of companies have used and will continue to use computer systems for aspects of their quality management system. There's a lot of companies out there, for example, that promote a paperless approach, documented information being captured within a computer type system. This whole principle is it's something that the term document, record, and so forth, they're trying to be more inclusive with that approach. Okay, we've got some concerns about being able to view the presentation. I'll mention that this presentation is available for repeat viewing on our website. There is a link for viewing past webinars, and this one will be available very shortly after we're finished here today. Okay, William Fingston, I believe, is asking, does PJR have a timeline for auditors to be certified to audit to the new standard? Not just yet. Obviously, it's in our best interest to have our auditing staff ready to go as quickly as possible, and the sooner the better, so that we can meet the needs of our customers that want to transition right away. But as to an official timeline, not at present. Okay, David Cooper asks, will ISO 13485 adhere to Annex SL before 2016 or 17? No. David, ISO 13485 is going its own way, and they will not be aligned with either ISO 9001 or with Annex SL. Okay. Florence Bernard asks, are we required to change a name such as supplier to external provider in our document if the concept is the same? No. Florence, you will definitely be able to maintain the content within your procedure. If the idea is the same, the information that we have at present is that should not present an issue for you in your system. Okay. Okay, I'm going to take my best shot at this. It's Kisei Kakafu asks, we need to complete our recertification by the middle of October. Is it possible for us to be certified as 9001:2015? Kisei, that's a very difficult question for us to answer right now. For one thing, the September 2015 publication date is very likely, but it's not definite. And in addition, once the new standard is published, we would have to ensure that we have a team of auditors through the transition process. I would say that it's possible that we could accommodate you, but not definite. However, I will hasten to add that if you re-up to ISO 9001-2008 this year, you can definitely plan a transition to ISO 2015 next year in 2016, and we would definitely be able to accommodate that. Okay. Okay, John Davidson asks, will your auditors be ready to audit 2015 before the new revision is published? We have our audit scheduled in July. John, I'm afraid the answer to that is no. We would not be able to provide an official audit to an unpublished standard. Okay, Martina Frankovitz asks, can you elaborate on the shift of not having a management rep who is solely responsible for handling ISO? Will those current MRs simply work with the leadership team to include them more? Martina, my expectation is that yes, arrangement. What they want to get away from, again, and I'll emphasize this again, they really want to get away from a situation where a company puts everything on one person's shoulders and the success or failure of the system is all on that person. That is no longer going to be considered acceptable. The management team has to be able to speak with confidence on the state of the system. They have to be participants in the system. Very much, this is already the intention of the current standard. It's being pushed even more by eliminating the term management representative. Okay, Andrea Cabrera asks, for those companies who are still going through ISO 9001-2008 certification, how long should they wait before transitioning to the new standard? Well, Andrea, if you are fairly close at the present time, now in May, our projection is that you should be able to get a full 3-year cycle of certification now and complete a transition in May of 2018 to the new standard. That would be, I would say, an ideal approach for you to consider. In terms of how long should you wait to transition, obviously the longer the better, because it'll give you a chance to be that much more mature as a quality system, give your auditors a chance rather to be more fully familiar with what you do and so forth. But obviously we will accommodate whatever transition timeline you feel is necessary. Okay, I'm going to wait just a minute or two here and see if we have any final questions before we conclude. Okay, well, I will say then thank you all very much. We've just had something pop up here. Johnny Cockerham asks, we are just starting down the road to certification. Is that wise at this time? Absolutely. It's always a good time for you to implement your system and to start your processes on the road towards maturity. There's never a bad time for that. Now, in terms of 6 months from now when you're ready for certification, how is this going to play out? Again, bear in mind that even if you do it at the end of the year, in November or December, you're still going to get a significant amount of time that you can be certified to ISO 2008. So Keep going on that road, Johnny. There's absolutely no harm to you or to your system in pursuing certification now. Okay. Kenneth Cox asks, you say that we can use our auditor as a resource to the new system. Is that considered consulting? Well, there's a difference between recognizing a gap in the system and indicating what you should do about that gap. When I say that your auditor is going to be a valuable resource, what I mean by that is your auditor is going to be able to help you pinpoint where are the things that we are still not fully compliant to the new set of requirements. What are we doing that is not fully in compliance with the new standard? Obviously, the auditor cannot recommend specific solutions, but they can bring in an expert analysis and confirm for you that what you've done is appropriate to fulfill the new requirements of the standard. Okay. Lynn Naramore asks, do we have to change the titles of our headings from ISO 9001-2008 to new headings, ISO 9001-2015? Lynn, I do believe that that's going to be necessary, yes. If you're calling out the standard specifically in your manual, those references would need to be updated. Charles Scales asks, must a company's non-quality business processes meet the requirements of the new standard? And Charles, I believe what you're referring to in this context are activities like accounting or perhaps your safety program and things of this nature. Remember that the new standard does include some documents, or excuse me, some requirements that correlate to business practices. I would say that those areas are going to be subject to audit only to the extent that we want to see that the strategic direction of the company and the quality of direction of the company are on the same path. But in terms of do they have to be compliant to the new standard, sight unseen, it's difficult to say with authority, but I would say that no, probably not. But we would need to look at your specific case in more depth to make a more informed decision. Okay, Rachel Oliver asks, can we title our documents ISO 9001 and leave the year off? Unfortunately, no. But Rachel, what I would propose to you is it necessary for you to mention 9001 at all? You could simply have a document that you call Quality Manual. You could simply have an item that you call Document Control Procedure, and so forth. That would be my personal take on that particular approach. Jamila Laurie asks, will we get a new version of the standard or will we have to purchase it from ISO? I'm afraid it will mean that the standard does have to be repurchased. However, I would emphasize to you, wait until the finished standard is actually published before you make a purchase. Scott Swanson asks, if the headings change, does that mean the numbering system will change? No. If you want to use, for example, procedure number 423 for your document control procedure, you can still call it procedure 423. Bruce Anderson asks, prior to a new standard certification audit, can interim assessment audits be performed to the new standard? I think what you're asking is, can the surveillance audits be to the old standard? The answer to that is yes. We're going to be able to still provide ISO 9001 surveillance audits well into 2018, according to what we know at the present time. When you're ready to make your transition, that is only then will we do the official transition audit. Okay, any further questions? Okay, James Rutledge asks, will record of this training be provided? I'm afraid we don't have certificates or anything of that nature. You can definitely indicate that you attended this webinar. As to whether this counts towards continuing education units or so forth, that I'm afraid we do not specifically know. Okay. Okay, we're going to conclude our training. Thank you all for your attendance. Have a great day.